Good morning, dear students. A warm welcome to all of you for our today's online session for the subject Science and Technology, both A and B. From section A, we are going to finish with our revision part. In our last session, we had started with the revision for chapter number 13, Carbon and Important Element. The last topic for revision is left out, that we will complete first, and then we will start with a new chapter from section B, the last chapter which is remaining for your portion to get completed, Life Processes in Living Organisms. A little bit lengthy but very interesting chapter. So let us first wind up with our revision for chapter number 13. In our last session, we had seen the different uses of carbon dioxide. Under that, we had seen how carbon dioxide is one of the components of your regular fire extinguisher. Now, here you can see the outer appearance of a fire extinguisher, and this is the inner lookout. A fire extinguisher, if you see, it contains sodium bicarbonate powder, that is NaHCO3 bicarbonate. Also, there is dilute sulfuric acid, which you can see here in the glass capsule. This capsule, it breaks on pressing the knob. You have to press the knob, you know it, for the fire extinguisher to work. On pressing the knob, what happens? As this capsule breaks, the sulfuric acid which is present in this capsule, it comes in contact with sodium bicarbonate powder, and both of them, they react chemically to release carbon dioxide gas which comes out. And you all know that carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire, to put out the flames, and hence it is a part of fire extinguisher. Now this carbon dioxide based fire extinguishers, they do not cause any corrosion and are non-conductors of electricity, and hence they are used when electrical and electronic equipments, they catch fire. So you can see that carbon dioxide based fire extinguishers are used to extinguish fires which are caught on a small scale. It is beyond their limit, it is beyond their capacity to extinguish a big fire. In modern fire extinguishers, liquid and solid carbon dioxide, it is filled under pressure. On reducing the pressure, it becomes gaseous and comes out forcefully through the horn-like hose pipe. That is in the modern fire extinguishers, which is its workout. Now the chemical reaction, here you can see that sulfuric acid is coming in contact with sodium bicarbonate. So 2NaHCO3 plus H2SO4, that is sulfuric acid, forms sodium sulfate plus water plus main carbon dioxide which is formed. So here the carbon dioxide which is obtained by chemical reactions or which is kept under pressure, that is only used to extinguish fire in fire extinguishers. Our next topic is just theoretical, that is about the deep information about methane gas, which has molecular formula CH4. It is an hydrocarbon and its molecular mass is 16. The first topic is about its occurrence, where it is found. It is found in natural gas to the extent of 87%. Decomposition of organic matter in the absence of air, anaerobic, produces methane. Anaerobic means absence of oxygen. It is present in the biogas, coal mines, found at the surface of marshy places. Hence it is also known as marsh gas. It is one of the important components of biogas. On heating a mixture of hydrogen and carbon monoxide gases at 300 degrees Celsius in the presence of nickel as the catalyst, methane gas is formed. Also, fractional distillation of natural gas gives methane in its purest form. Now 7 places of occurrence is given for methane. 3 to 4 only you prepare for your exam. Next, in short, we will just go through the physical properties of methane. The first physical property of methane is about its melting point, which is minus 182.5 degrees Celsius, and the boiling point is minus 161.5 degrees Celsius. If you look at the color of the gas, it is a colorless gas whose density is less than that of water. This methane, if you see, is sparingly soluble in water but highly soluble in organic solvents, and it is in the gaseous state at room temperature. It is present in the form of gas. Then we had seen about its chemical properties, how it is highly inflammable, and about the chlorination property. Last, very simple, is the uses of methane. It is used in the form of natural gas in different industries. It is the smallest hydrocarbon, hence the proportion of carbon dioxide which is released in the combustion of methane is very small, and therefore it is used as a domestic fuel, and it is used in the production of different organic compounds. Now, in the beginning I have told you it is a very important component of biogas. What is the biogas and what is the biogas plant, that we are going to see as the last topic. Here is the setup of a biogas plant. Now, what is the main raw material used in biogas plant? The raw material which is used is, you can say, does not bear any cost and is very cheap. Animal dung, dry leaves, wet garbage. This is the raw material. So this, they get decomposed by the anaerobic microbes. Anaerobic means the microbes which function in the absence of oxygen, in the absence of air. So all this raw materials in the form of animal dung, dry leaves, means you can say, call it as a waste. They get decomposed by anaerobic microbes in this biogas plant, and this process, it produces methane gas, which is also known as biogas. Now, what is the main use of this biogas? This biogas production is, you can say, it is produced on a very large scale, especially in the rural areas where they face the fuel problems. Now, this biogas which is produced in the biogas plant, it is a very cheap fuel option which meets the demand for cooking gas. Also, it is used for the production of electricity. What does this biogas contain? It contains 55% to 60% of methane, and the rest is carbon dioxide. This biogas is a fuel which is very convenient to use. In addition to this, it is also a very good manure and is also produced as a side product of the process. See how useful this biogas is, especially in the rural parts of not only our country but in different parts of the world. Now, the biogas production process, it includes two steps. Now, this production of biogas, it is an anaerobic process because here the animal dung or the dry leaves, they are decomposed by the anaerobic microbes. So, the entire process is an anaerobic process which takes place in two stages. The first stage is production of acids and the second is methane gas production. In production of acids, the anaerobic microbes, they act on the biodegradable complex organic compound, which is nothing but your dry leaves, wet garbage and all, and they produce organic acids. The methanogenic bacteria, they act on the organic acids to produce methane gas. And the chemical reaction involved here is CH3COOH, that is acetic acid, forms methane plus liberation of carbon dioxide gas. So this is about the biogas plant. With the revision of biogas plant, we complete the revision for chapter number 13, and with that we complete with the revision for section A. So our first revision for the exam is over. Now we will start with the last chapter of section B, which is left out. Chapter number 15, Life Processes in Living Organisms. Look at the name, a very simple title. The different life processes which categorizes an organism as a living one. Now, in the earlier standards, you have studied how digested food or oxygen which is inhaled by the lungs is transported to every cell of the human body. Means what? Here you can see a small process like transportation. So which are the different types of other processes which makes an organism a living one? So the different essential life processes in common for living organisms are, first thing is movement. Except for the plants, you see that all other living organisms, including your small unicellular bacteria up to the multicellular organisms, plants, they cannot move from one place to another, but the movement of the leaves, the movement of the branches can be seen very easily. Reproduction, giving the process of giving birth to young ones of their same kind, whether it is animals, whether it is plants, whether it is human beings, that process is known as reproduction. Respiration, inhaling air, exhaling out the toxic gases is called as respiration. Growth, you all know. Excretion means removal of waste products outside the body is called as excretion. Nutrition, providing nutrition to the body. Apart from that, you have other processes like coordination. So in this chapter, we are going to study the three life processes in details. One is transportation in plants. The next is excretion. You are going to study for both plants as well as human beings. And C is the coordination in human beings. How the different activities inside the human body are well coordinated and well balanced. We begin with the first life process for this chapter, that is transportation. In the very beginning, I have told you how the digested food or oxygen, it is transported to every cell of the human body. The farmer, it also tries to transport the water from the wells or the dams through a main channel to every plant. The food which is absorbed by the digestive system is converted into energy, and this energy and oxygen are both transported via blood throughout the body. Now the first process, transportation in plants. Transportation. In general, it means a substance which is either synthesized or absorbed in one part of the body reaches another. Then what about transportation in plants? What does it mean? Now you have seen that most of the animals, including human beings are also a social animal. So they move from one place to another, but plants, they do not. And hence there are many dead cells in the plant body. As compared to animals, they need very less amount of energy, because animals lose their energy in movement, but plants, they do not move, hence less energy is required. But plants, they need all the inorganic substances like nitrogen, phosphorus, magnesium, manganese, sodium, etc. etc. And who is the nearest and richest source of all the substances for the plants? It is the soil particles. Why? Because the roots of the plant, they are in contact with the soil. Now roots of the plants, they absorb the substances from the soil and then they transport them. You eat the food with your hands and then the food is transferred to your mouth. Then the teeth help in chewing the food, and then the food is passed to the stomach. This is your process. So for the plants, the roots which are in contact with the soil, they do this job of absorbing the necessary substances from the soil and transporting them. And there are two specific types of tissues to perform this function. One is the xylem and the other is phloem. The main function of xylem is conduction of water and phloem is conduction of food. You know that water and food, these are the ingredients which are required by all the living organisms including plants. So xylem, it conducts the water, whereas phloem conducts the food, and all the parts of the plant are connected with the help of this conducting tissues. Now we will go into a little deeper manner to see how transportation occurs in plants. First we will see absorption with the help of roots. Just now I have told you that roots are in contact with the soil and they play a major role in transportation. You can see the roots of the plants. They contain xylem. So root cells are in contact with water and minerals of the soil. You can see here. Water and minerals, they enter the cells on the root surface due to the differences in their concentration. These are the roots. The water and minerals from the soil, they enter the cells on the root due to the differences in concentration, and as a result of this, these cells, they become very turgid. What do you mean by turgid? The surface formed which is due to the uptake of water. Now this turgid cells, they exert pressure on the adjacent cells which is called as root pressure. Once the cells, they become turgid, they start exerting pressure on the cells which are next to them, which is known as root pressure, and under the effect of this pressure, the water and minerals which are absorbed by the roots, they reach the xylem of the roots, and to reduce this difference in concentration, they are continuously pushed upwards. You can see here, water is being transferred to the xylem. As a result of this continuous movement, a water column is formed which is continuously pushed ahead, and this pressure is sufficient to lift the water up in the case of small plants, in the case of shrubs and small trees, small shrubs and all, herbal trees like tulsi and small plants around you. So this much pressure is enough for the water to be transferred in the upward direction. Next is transpiration pool. You all know that plants, they give out water in the form of vapor through the stomata which is present on their leaves. These are the leaves. The small openings on the leaves, they are known as stomata, and plants excrete, they give out water in the form of vapor through the stomata. Now two cells which are called the guard cells, they are present around the stomata. You can see the guard cells. These cells, they control the opening and closing of the stomata. You know, to take the food inside, you have to open your mouth. After the food has to be chewed, the food is taken in, the mouth has to be closed for the chewing process. So you can do it on your own. But for the plants, these guard cells, they control the opening and closing of the stomata, because plants, they do not have a well organized brain like us. So there are these cells to carry out the function. Now transpiration, it takes place through this stomata. Water is released into the atmosphere by the leaves through the process of evaporation. You can see water is given out into the environment. As a result, the water level in the epidermal layer of the leaf, it decreases, and water is brought up to the leaves through the xylem. I have told you earlier that it is the xylem, a specific tissue which helps in the pulling up, the absorption of water, transportation of water, and hence the water which is lost out by the process of throwing out vapor through the stomata, that water is brought up to the leaves through the xylem so as to compensate for the lost water. And this transpiration, it helps in the absorption of water and minerals and then distribution to all the parts of the plant. Whereas we have seen about the root pressure, it performs the important role of pushing the water up, especially during the night time. So we have studied about the absorption with the help of roots. We have studied what is root pressure. We have seen what is transpiration. Now we will see the transportation of food and other substances in plants. Once we have seen the transportation of water, but the food which is prepared by the leaves by the process of photosynthesis, how that food is transported, that we are going to see as the next topic. Transportation of food and other substances in plants. Now, the food which is produced in the leaves is transported to each cell in the plant body. It is the leaves which help in the manufacture of food for the plants, and this food which is produced in the leaves, it is transported to each cell in the plant body. You know, the food is digested in our stomach, and then whatever it is converted into the fatty acids and all, the absorption of the important ingredients take place, and then it has to be transported to all the parts of the body to carry out the necessary functions. Similarly is in the case of plants. Now excess food except the amino acids is stored in the roots, fruits and seeds, and this process is called as translocation. Excess food. Now the body, whether it is the body of human beings, animals or plants, it will not produce or manufacture the food according to the necessity. Always the food will be produced in excess form, and that excess food which is not required, it is stored in the roots, fruits and seeds of the plant, which is known as translocation of materials. It is carried out in both the upward as well as in the downward direction. You can see here in the photograph. Now it is carried in both upward and downward direction. By whom? By phloem, which is the tissue responsible for transportation of food. Now translocation of materials, it is not a very simple physical process. It requires energy, and this energy is obtained from ATP. Now, whenever the food material like sucrose is transported towards a part of the plant via the phloem, with the help of phloem, with the help of ATP, the water concentration, it decreases in that part. What happens as a result of it? Water, it enters the cell. You can see this cells over here by the process of diffusion, and the pressure on the cell wall, it increases due to increase in the cellular contents. Due to this increased pressure, food is pushed into the neighboring cells where the pressure is low. You have studied about the transfer of electricity from the end lower potential to the end of higher potential. Similarly, here is the case, and this process helps the phloem to transport the materials as per the need of the plant. During flowering season, the sugar which is stored in the roots or the stem is transported towards the floral buds to make them open and blossom. I have told you that the excess food, it is stored in the roots, fruits and seeds of the plant, and during the flowering season, you know that the buds of the plant which have to be converted into flower, they require a large amount of all these food substances. So especially during the flowering season, the sugar which is stored in the roots or stem, it is transported by whom? By the phloem towards these floral buds to help them to open up and blossom. This is about the transportation of food and other substances in plants. With this topic, we have completed with the first topic of the chapter, that is transportation. Now in this chapter, we are going to study about the different life processes. One is which we have completed today, transportation. Next, we are going to study about the excretion system in plants and both human beings. Then we are going to study about the coordination which is brought about in human beings. So now we will just get ourselves introduced with excretion. What is meant by excretion? And then in our next session, we are going to study about the excretion which is brought about in both plants as well as animals. Every session we are going to learn about a single life process. Next time we will revise both transportation and then we will see the excretion in plants and human beings. Now let us just get ourselves introduced with what do we mean by the term excretion. Excretion. Excretion means nothing but the removal of waste or harmful substances from the body. You all, along with plants, animals, consume food materials daily. Also water is taken up as per the requirement. So many harmful and waste substances like urea, uric acid, ammonia, etc. they are produced, manufactured in all the living organisms, and if these substances accumulate in the body or are retained in the body for a long amount of time, it can lead to serious harm or even death. And hence it becomes necessary for the body to remove such harmful and waste materials outside the body, to throw it outside the body. And different organisms, they have different methods of doing this, and this entire process is called as excretion. In short, if you have to correlate this term with your day-to-day activities, the garbage which is accumulated in your house has to be thrown out of the house to avoid stinking and different types of diseases. That garbage has to be thrown outside the building, and then the municipal corporation heads and all, they take this garbage away and further dispose it off. So that simple process of throwing the garbage outside your house every day on a regular basis is called as excretion, and similarly is the excretion in all the living organisms. Removal of the waste or harmful substances from the body at regular intervals of time, that is excretion. And as I have told you, different organisms, they use different modes. In unicellular organisms, unicellular means the organisms which have a single cell, waste materials, they are directly eliminated across the cell surface because there is only a single cell to carry out all their processes, whereas process of excretion in multicellular organisms is complex, little bit difficult. Multicellular means having more than one cell, so this process becomes little bit difficult and complex. So we have seen what is meant by excretion. In our next session, we are going to study about it in more details, how this excretion is brought about in plants and how it is brought about in human beings, which are the different organs which are responsible to bring about this process of excretion. And hence, I will request all of you, before you attend our next session, kindly go through both these topics, that is transportation and excretion, so that at least some words you will be familiar with before you attend the session. And this chapter is very, very interesting, so you all are going to enjoy it if you are going to read it thoroughly. Thank you, dear children.